Welcome to the MicroFriction Pushback, the best pushback system in North America. This training video will demonstrate the proper procedures and safety guidelines for using the MicroFriction Pushback racking system safely and efficiently. The MicroFriction Pushback is a rack storage system with moving parts and must be operated at all times by a trained and licensed forklift operator. Multiple loads can be loaded and retrieved from the same lane, thus increasing the number of pallets stored in the facility. The rails are slightly inclined to the front to facilitate movement, and the carts are linked so that all loaded carts move back to the front of the pushback lane at all times. The built-in lift-out protection helps to prevent carts from derailing during loading and unloading of pallets. The front safety stop prevents loads from falling over when properly stored on their respective carts. Every cart is color-coded for easy identification. The unique design of the V-shaped wheel on the diamond-shaped rails of the MicroFriction Pushback will prevent accumulation of debris that can cause cart blockages and makes it a virtually maintenance-free racking system. Every pushback is designed to accommodate pallet loads with specific dimensions, and it is imperative that pallet specifications are respected for safe operation. The pallets must be in good condition, showing no signs of deterioration. Examine the bottom of the pallet before loading. The boards of your pallet must not be damaged. Splits, cracks, broken boards, and exposed fasteners represent safety hazards. Use only the correct dimensions. For example, if the cart is designed for 40 by 48 inch deep pallets, other dimensions must not be used. Use only the correct configuration. Pallets should be GMA style pallets, with at least 5 bottom boards running left to right. Using an incompatible pallet type for which the MicroFriction Pushback is not designed to be used with can pose a safety hazard during both loading and unloading. For more information about compatible pallet types, contact your dealer. Verify that the load or loads are safely shrink-wrapped and/or unitized in the center of the pallet before loading. There must be no overhang, and the forklift operator has to ensure that no loads are improperly stacked where carton flaps, slip sheets, loose shrink wrap, or other material can cause the pushback cart to hang up on the rail. Pallet load on any one level should never be more than 10% in weight difference. For example, a 2,000-pound pallet load must never be stored in the same section as a 1,500-pound pallet load. If loads of different weights are stored in the same lane, the heaviest load will tend to push the lighter load out of the lane, which can result in serious injury or death. The highest cart is always loaded first by the forklift operator. Always approach the MicroFriction facing the lane and never at an angle. For the first load, ensure there is roughly 3 inches of clearance above the highest cart. Tilt the forks of the lift truck slightly rearward to match the slope of the cart. It is important to ensure that the load is properly centered as it is lowered on the cart. If the bottom of the pallet touches the cart while it is being loaded, raise the load to free the cart and resume loading. Ensure that the load is centered on the cart and at the front before lowering into position. Never allow the pallet to rest on the front pallet stop. Do not tilt the pallet forward on the cart as you lower the load. Once a load is resting on the cart, never side shift the pallet as it can cause damage to the pushback. You are now ready to load the remaining pallets. When loading all remaining pallets on the pushback lane, position the forks at an angle to match the slope of the cart while keeping a clearance of 3 inches from the top of the next cart. Gently make contact with the front of the first pallet and the pallet on the forklift. The second and remaining pallets should push against the previous pallet and not against the load for remaining loads. Using the pallet on the forklift, push the first pallet back slowly until you expose the second cart where the current load will rest. Again, ensure that the pallet is properly centered before slowly lowering it into position on the cart, and do not tilt the forks forward as the load is lowered into position. During the loading process of the remaining pallets, never push the loads back too fast. During loading of the pallet loads, it is important to try to avoid cross-stacking the loads on the carts. Cross-stacking occurs when a pallet rests on two different carts at the same time. It can occur in the following situations. The first pallet is pushed too far at the back of the first cart. This will expose the front portion of the first cart, and the second pallet is thus partially stored on the first cart. A smaller pallet size is used, exposing part of that cart. The next pallet load is thus partially stored on the previous cart. If a forklift operator encounters resistance during loading, the operation must be immediately stopped and the following must be verified. Any previous pallet already loaded is not off-centered or hitting the rack or load in the adjacent lane. There is no debris such as plastic wrap or granular residues blocking the rail and wheels of the cart. A pallet load with overhang is not exceeding the storage volume of the pushback lane. The pushback lane is already full. For more information about loading procedures and safety guidelines, contact your dealer. The unloading procedure is the loading process in reverse with a few steps to remember when unloading a full lane. Again, approach the MicroFriction pushback facing the lane and not at an angle. Tilt the forks backwards at the same angle as the cart. Do not enter the lane with the forks tilted downward to avoid hitting and accidentally dislodging or damaging the cart. Once the pallet is secured with the forks, lift vertically and ensure that there is enough clearance to avoid contact with the front stop of the cart. As you pull out slowly at a constant speed, the forklift will act as a brake for the remaining loaded carts to reposition at the front of the lane. The pallet being unloaded should always be touching the next pallet behind it. If the other pallet loads are allowed to glide down the rail unrestrained, the impact hitting the front stop can cause the load to fall from the pallet, potentially resulting in serious injury or death. Follow the same steps to unload the remaining pallets in the lane. If a pallet is jammed and does not return to the front of the lane during unloading, give a slight push on the pallet with the pallet on the forklift. If the jammed pallet still does not come forward, place back the pallet being unloaded in its position on the cart to hold the jammed pallet in place and do not unload until the problem is solved. Never allow a jammed pallet to remain stuck and never enter a lane without adequate protection. Should it come unstuck, the cart could flow rapidly to the front and its load could fall, causing severe injury or death. These are the common causes of jammed pallets. The rear pallet is not centered. Load overhang from pallets such as slip sheets or carton flaps. Adjacent pallet misalignment. If conditions allow, check for any object or debris blocking the rail and wheels of the cart. Remove the obstruction in a secure manner. If the obstruction cannot be removed or the jammed pallet is damaged, follow these procedures carefully. Leave the forks of the forklift truck in front of the jammed lane as a safety barrier. Make sure the brakes of the forklift truck are activated. Remove all pallet loads from the adjacent pushback lane using normal unloading procedures. Remove all pushback carts from the adjacent lane. Make a secure platform in that lane. The platform must be stable and sturdy. Place an empty pallet on the forklift parked in a position easily and safely accessible from the platform. Using all necessary protection and safety equipment, access the platform and transfer the load from the jammed pallet onto the pallet on the forklift. Carefully remove the damaged pallet out of the system. The remaining carts should roll forward. Remove the platform and reinstall the carts in the adjacent lane. Unloading can now resume. It is imperative that the instructions and safety measures mentioned in this training video are strictly followed to ensure proper functioning of your MicroFriction pushback system. Failure to do so can lead to serious safety hazards, injury, or death, in addition to damaging the pushback system and its stored loads. If you required more information, please contact your dealer.